Chapter 9, Brownies and Bible Study, Starved for Identity. He told me I could bring the brownies to Bible study as his Bible study co-leader. Apparently, he decided he would take care of the Bible study part and I could take care of the brownie part. Funny, I don't remember brownies being in the phrase Bible study, because it's not. Yet somehow, here we were. Leaves fell in a dreamy pattern around me as I opened the door to the Bowling Green State University Student Center. A mix of hope and anxiety pulsed through the room as college men and women talked about starting fall classes. Students were exchanging high fives and welcome back hugs, offloading book bags in between classes, coaxing vending machines to release candy bars and caffeinated drinks. Eager for what God had for me, I was excited to sit down and plan the Bible study lesson for the college ministry I was involved in, but with that opening statement from my co-leader, something shifted. We'd been paired up to lead a co-ed Bible study in one of the residence halls that year. I was a senior in college and had been studying and teaching the Bible for a few years at this point, mentoring women, leading in a variety of ways, and even teaching at the weekly meeting, which typically had been reserved for the staff team. I was anticipating the adventure of my last year in college with this ministry I had grown to love. Eager and energized, I was ready to be used by God. My co-leader was a first-year intern on the campus ministry staff team, and the greater powers of the staff team thought we would be a good match. A green staff guy and an energetic senior college girl. I can see why they thought this could work, but what looks good on paper can sometimes fall apart in practice. I couldn't put words to what rose up inside of me when he politely told me I could contribute little more than dessert to our study. A cocktail of disappointment, offense, shame, uselessness, anger, and frustration sloshed around my soul. What was I supposed to do with this statement? I felt a clear call on my life to teach the Bible, something that others who were older and wiser had affirmed. But in this moment, I felt discouraged, unseen, and sidelined. I was told to bring the brownies when all I wanted to do was bring the word. Even more perplexing was what I had repeatedly seen modeled with my own two eyes, a co-led ministry with a man and a woman serving together as equals. I saw a generous shared plate of responsibilities, microphone time, teaching, and mutual submission among the men and women in that ministry. I think that's what made his one little sentence in the corner of the student center, said as casually as a comment about the weather, so completely disorienting. It's been 20 years since that life-changing exchange. 20 years of continuing to hear a lot of ideas about how I ought to spend my time, use my gifts, and act as a woman in ministry. 20 years of cradling that way down deep knowledge about what I was made for, but wrestling with confidence, submission, pride, position, titles, calling, fear, boldness, opinions, people-pleasing, and the church at large. 20 years of flipping back and forth with this reality in mind. I was made to write and speak and lead. I was a woman in a place where men were in charge. Who will listen to you? Decades later, God continues to remind me of something I need, something we all need. It's vital to our growth, to our confidence, and to following Jesus. It's what will keep us from wilting and starving. It's what will certainly replenish our dry and thirsty souls. We need to listen to God first. We need to let God tell us who we are and what He's called us to do. We need to let God's voice speak into our identity, to talk to Him about taking off the labels everyone else has given us, or to keep the ones that fit what He intends. Let's practice listening to His voice first, and sometimes exclusively, because, friend, allowing others to speak into the core of who we are and what we do without taking these things to God first will starve us. Yes, God uses community to encourage us and to affirm us. We need others to speak into our lives, to call us out and up. Community is vital. I have a whole chapter coming on this. But we also have an enemy who seeks to destroy us and lie to us. The only way to know the difference between the two? By taking our identity to God first. By taking someone's word over us to Him first. By taking it all to the one who made us and knows us first. That will allow us to flourish. Stepping outside the Student Center building that day, after I muttered, sounds good, that I obviously didn't mean, I put my left hand to my head and sensed a sudden need for water. My mouth was as dry as the Sahara in summer. I looked around, but I don't know what I was hoping to find. Maybe someone to verify that I was more than a brownie bringer? Maybe just a way to collect my thoughts and find a drinking fountain. Maybe the will to just walk away, forget my teaching gifts, and accept my lot as the Bible study baker? This plan did not sound good. In fact, it sounded terrible. For one, I didn't even like baking back then. I had burned my fair share of frozen pizzas. On a very basic and fundamental level, putting me in charge of brownies was a bad idea. And the brownies, as if every Bible study required them? Why must there be sugar at every Christian event? And why do we insist on asking the girls to bring it? But there was obviously more to the issue than brownies. Yes, I was a younger, less experienced Bible teacher than my co-leader, but the truth was that God seemed to use my little Bible studies to bring college women closer to Him. The truth was that my co-leader didn't think I had what it would take. The truth was that what he said was offensive, hurtful, misogynistic, short-sighted, and patriarchal, and arrogant. The truth was that I was hurt. The truth was that I had to figure out what to do with the truth. I had to decide whose voice I was going to listen to. Scars. I realized that much more hurtful, damaging, and traumatic words have been penned or spewed at you, at me, at us. We all have our bring the brownies moments when we feel belittled and unseen. We have been categorized, abused, or used as pawns in a larger religious or otherwise chess game. We have been spit on, cursed at, shoved around, told to go back to where we came from. We have been called derogatory names based on the glorious and rich color of our skin, or the lovely shape of our eyes, or the gender that was carefully crafted by our Creator in our mother's wombs. We have had moments in our stories that have left scars, but the truth, the absolute healing truth of it all, the truth that defeats the lies, the only scars that truly define us, are the ones Jesus has. I don't say this lightly, friend. I am by no means belittling the experiences, the words, the weight placed on us by others. I'm not brushing past what these things have done to starve us of our true identity. I'm not glossing over the healing we need in order to be nourished in the truth of who we are again. What I am saying is that our scars are not the sum of who we are. Jesus' scars seal our identity. His scars say we are accepted, we are loved, we are free, and we are His. His scars say we are so incredibly valuable to Him that He would die for us. His scars say that though the world wants to tell us otherwise, we are wildly loved, valuable, and necessary to the point of death. Remember how the father felt about his prodigal son who had taken his entire inheritance, packed his bags, skipped town, and spent every last dollar? How his father was on the front porch day after day, raising his hand to his forehead and peering into the distance, waiting and watching to restore his son to himself. When the day came, he finally saw his son. His whole entire being was filled with compassion at the very sight of him. Remember how the father grabbed his long robes and hiked them up in such an undignified manner it would make others blush, and how he leaped down the front steps and broke into an all-out sprint toward his boy? Remember how, when he reached his son, he hugged him with a great bear hug that only a father can give? In that story, we don't see just a father running to his lost son. We see our Father running to us, seeing our scars with compassionate eyes and reminding us who we are. His. The father in the story bore the brunt of the inheritance that was lost. He took the debt and absorbed it, and not only did he absorb it, he then took more of what was his clothes, his rings, his shoes, and gave them to his son again. He gave more. He slaughtered a cow for a feast. He paid for a party in the wake of wasted wealth. There was nothing he wouldn't have done to celebrate the return of his beloved son. And friend, this is what God's extravagant love does for us. Whether we come to Him with scars we've caused or scars we've received, whether we have bought hook, line, and sinker what everyone else has said about us, whether we are unable to untangle our identity from our work or the applause or the praise or the harsh words, whether we struggle greatly with believing we are worthy to be called God's, the truth is, His scars are the source of our identity. They are the proof of His love for us in the face of such hurt and pain. And this is what we are starving for, the restorative love of God that defines who we are and whose we are, the love that lets us take off the chains of the approval of others, the love that lets us shed the shackles of the opinions of others, the love that gives us our identity. The practice of prayer. So how do we get there? Yes, you guessed it. We practice. Allowing our identity to be nourished by God alone isn't going to come naturally. What comes naturally? Lies and arrows and slurs and pain. If we leave it there, we're ultimately going to starve. But if we practice consistently, rooting ourselves in who God says we are, we'll find satisfaction. The practice that best helps us replace the opinions of others with the opinions of God is prayer. We talk to God and God talks to us. We spend time with our Maker. We let Him tell us who He made us to be. Now I'll just come out and tell you that I am not good at listening to the quiet whisper of God. I am far better at listening to the loud applause or noisy opinions of others, but I'm practicing. I am finding ways to connect to God's voice and disconnect from others' voices. I am finding what works and what doesn't, just the way you do with a good friend or your spouse. I am finding a rhythm of communication between my Father and myself, and in that rhythm, I'm finding peace in who I really am. I'm finding my identity. One of the ways I listen to God's voice is by choosing a song that tells about who God is and who I am. I walk and I listen and I sing and I pray. I let the truth wash over my soul. When the soundtrack of someone else's voice is stuck on repeat, it's time for a new soundtrack, and an actual song can do wonders. Songs can act as prayers. They can help us meet with God. They can remind us of what is true. Recently, I had a full lineup of teaching and travel all in 1 week. One of the places I'd be speaking had one of the largest crowds I had ever taught in front of. The days leading up to this full week, I found myself rehearsing my talks in the car, the shower, the garden. Ever so slowly, the pressure to perform, to prove, to gain the approval of others crept in, like a quiet lion in the tall grasses looking for her prey. My thoughts turned to the need to teach perfectly so that I could win everyone over and prove that women can indeed preach. Clearly, the request for Brownies almost 2 decades ago was still hovering over me. Eventually, my thoughts about who I was shifted to who I wasn't. I wasn't ordained. I wasn't theologically trained. I wasn't carrying the title pastor with my name. Who was I to teach? I only had a handful of seminary classes taken over a decade in my pocket, so if I got up there, I had to crush it. There was no room for error. I needed to prove that women can be called by God and gifted to share His message. It felt like the weight of all women in ministry was riding on my shoulders. Our identity as a whole was at stake. Talk about starving. I needed a new conversation in my head, and I needed Jesus to help me get there. As I was reaching higher levels of anxiety, the lyrics to the song, The Blessing, came to mind. The Lord bless you and keep you, make His face shine upon you. It was a song we had sung in church about 6 months before that. Did God want me to listen to it now? Was this song an invitation to meet God on a walk and let Him talk to me? It happened enough times that this felt like Him to me. So I set my kids up with a show and snacks. I popped my earbuds in to find the song, and I went for a walk around the block. If you have been anywhere near me on that walk, you would have thought a dam had opened up inside of me. With Carrie Job singing those words over me, the pressure to perform broke, and I started to cry. Hoover Dam tears. Each tear seemed to carry a lie away from my heart, away from my mind, and away from my soul. Prove, push, please, perform, perfect. They all fell to the ground in saltwater droplets that day. I released the fears, the comments, and the labels given to me over the years. I let go of the words spoken years ago by members of my congregation who didn't think women should teach. I was the only woman who had ever taught at my church, so this wasn't some general idea. It was personal because it was about me. They thought I should not teach, and that alone had been starving me of my true identity. If I wanted to step into my God-given calling and God-given identity, I had to let it go. After opening my hands on my walk, pretending and practicing the act of letting all the identities others have given me fall to the ground, I now had open hands to receive God's identity for me. I could embrace the blessing that was being sung over me, the blessing of God's face turned toward me in love, delight, and affection. If not one person said one positive thing to me after I taught, I was going to be okay. I was still going to be enough. It was enough to be faithful to the assignment given to me by my good Father. It was enough to enjoy God as I encouraged people from up front. It was enough to do it with God alone. It was enough to be blessed by God before I spoke one word in front of anyone else. It was enough to just walk and let God's truth sing over me. It was enough to receive a song that brought healing and wholeness, identity and security. Am I forever fixed by that walk? I wish, but it's walks like this that build up the memories I have with God to draw on when the lies come, when the insecurity tries to bury me alive, when the Brownie narrative comes back. I can try a walk, a song, a good cry to tap into the truth and rewire my thinking. It's all in the practice. I am. In the book of Numbers, the Lord directed Moses and Aaron to bless the Israelites. Say to them, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. So they will put my name on the Israelites, and I will bless them. Numbers 6, verses 23 through 27. Did you catch the very last part? They will put my name on the Israelites. If this isn't an identity, I don't know what is. God's name on them, on us, on anyone who follows him. We are his, and he is ours. We are clearly labeled and marked by our Father, mine. This is one of the hallmark moments of our identity. It is described again in the very last book of the Bible, when Jesus comes back to put everything to right. There we find a beautiful description of our identity sealed forever by his name upon us. No longer will we question who we are, or how God feels about us, or who made us with loving hands. No longer will we starve. Instead, we'll be sealed, nourished, and marked by who we are in Christ. On that day, his servants shall serve him. They shall see his face, and his name shall be on their foreheads. Revelation 22, verses 3 and 4. I am not a brownie baker. I am not a slave to others' opinions. I am not responsible to prove women can do things in God's kingdom. I am a beloved daughter of the Most High King. I am free from the opinion of others and blessed by my Father. I am responsible only for being faithful to what my Father has given me, no more, no less. This is who I am, stamped on my forehead by the great I am. This is the place my soul can rest. This is my identity. This is your identity. The Lord's Prayer. Friend, let's be honest here. There are days I don't have a prayer to pray. I don't have a song to sing, a word to say, a thought to give to the Lord. Maybe you know exactly how this feels. If you do, then we're in good company. Jesus' own disciples ran into this word block themselves. They too looked at Jesus, feeling lost about how to pray, and said, "Teach us." So Jesus did. He gave a very simple, very profound prayer that has been memorized and shared for centuries. Turns out, templates are really helpful when we don't know what in the world we are doing. Jesus gave them what is now called the Lord's Prayer. Our Father in heaven, may your name be kept holy. May your kingdom come soon. May your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today the food we need, and forgive us our sins, as we have forgiven those who sin against us. And don't let us yield to temptation, but rescue us from the evil one. Matthew chapter 6, verses 9 through 13. When we can't find our own words to pray, the Lord's Prayer is where we can look. In Jesus' words, we find 6 themes that will help us shape our prayers when our souls desperately need to speak to the Father. These are the themes we can use. Father, you are my good Father, and I have a family. Worship, you alone are worthy of my worship. Heaven, let your kingdom invade our world, our city, our neighborhood, our hearts. Provision, I trust you to provide everything I need. Forgiveness, we humbly come in need of forgiveness and in need of extending it to others. Rescue, we need your strength and your protection from our enemy. When I feel lost for words, I come back to these themes with 2 questions. What does my heart need right now? What part of my identity feels shaken? Do I need to know I have a Father who loves me? Do I need to turn away from my self-worship and worship God? Do I need to pray for God's kingdom to flourish right here? Do I need to remember that God will take care of me? Do I need to confess my sin and find forgiveness or come to forgive another? Do I need to know God's rescuing strength today? Jesus has not left us without help or without hope. He has given us a way to pray, a way to come, a way to commune with Him, so we can embrace who we are and who God is. May these words be the call back to connecting with our Father and finding our identity in Him alone. May we be people who replace the opinions of others with God's approval, acceptance, and affection. May we pray through tears and songs, through freedom and fear. May we practice praying the truth of who God is and who we are, letting go of the lies. May we be nourished in the truth of who we really are. A practice. Prayer can come with groans and sighs, Romans chapter 8, verses 26 and 27, through songs and dancing, as in Psalm 145, or through preset words, the Lord's Prayer. This week, choose a prayer practice. Is it a walk in a song? Is it very slowly saying each word of the Lord's Prayer? Is it choosing one of the themes in the Lord's Prayer and talking to Jesus about it? Whatever it is for you, make this practice of prayer a habit this week, asking God to remind you who you are in Him. A prayer. As you breathe, let this prayer flow from you. Exhale. I release the words and opinions of others who want to shape my identity. Inhale. I take in the truth of who you say I am, Father. I find my identity in you.